I'm just going to speak this in general. I'm not saying about any one particular worldview. I think some worldviews do a much better job, obviously. But I think in general, when one is considering worldviews, it would it'd be a little too much to expect it to explain everything that we encounter. One, just because of the limitations that we have as far as what we know. So when we're trying to understand the world, some things we just don't really understand what that is. Well, if we can't understand what it is, what's going on, then there's really no way we're going to be able to explain it, right? There's like certain phenomena and stuff that might be happening that happened for quite some time when we didn't understand what DNA was. And so people were trying to figure out, well, how is it that somebody looks the way that they do, or they have these features versus someone else, either within the same race, you know, like human beings, or amongst animals, or something like that, right? So we were trying to explain something, but we really couldn't do an adequate job, and we did our best job. And then then the discovery of DNA came along, and how these little code things work, and it's like, whoa, right? And our scope opened up, and then we were able to explain it, right? So now DNA, you know, as we do this kind of stuff, helps us have a better explanatory scope of things, you see. Now, anyone at that point who would say, oh, no, DNA doesn't exist, what happened? Their scope just shrunk outside of what we actually understand about reality. It just kind of narrowed. That worldview that says, well, no, not DNA, it can't handle it. It doesn't know what to do with that. And so, you know, if I came along and somebody presented me their worldview and they had no way of explaining what DNA was, I would say, well, I don't really know how, I don't really know if I want to accept what you have to say as far as your worldview. Doesn't mean that their entire worldview is wrong, but it's lacking in some things that I need to, you know, that I need to deal with, that I need to know something about, you know. So that's another area. Explanatory power is how well each of these different beliefs, how well we can explain it. So scope is the breadth of it, all the different information we have, all the things that we can say we know about. Power is how well does it explain. See, if I say, well, yeah, the world floats in space, but you know, there's a turtle underneath there that's supporting it. Well, that's one explanation, but it may not explain it as well as, let's say, Einstein's theory. Einstein's theory does a better job of explaining why, because, well, now we got some ships around, you know, kind of see there's a little turtle underneath there or something like that. You know, so, and that might be kind of a different example because those views kind of contradict each other. But that's
what would you say that somebody like who lives in South America, who lives in some tribe, you know, and he has a worldview in his tribal settings, and you know, he kind of holds to certain gods, and then also about the moon and stuff like that, and he's has a very narrow scope of a worldview. Is that what you mean? Versus somebody like us in, you know, the West has a very broader scope because we understand about the moon, we understand about all these things that they kind of apply a deity to.
Right, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So
their scope is narrow.
It is narrow in the sense of because we're going back to what is true, right?
Right.
Now if in this South American area or whatever it happens to be, there's all these gods, and those gods really happen to exist, well then that worldview is going to have better explanatory power than a worldview that says you know, something different, that the moon is the way it is for some other information, let's say the laws of physics and other things, and you know, and things that we know about cosmology, which is the study of the universe and all those kind of things out there, right? So another one now would be what I call existential import, and that sounds kind of technical. In other words, how important it is to my existence. So I could have a worldview about something, I could have a belief system about something, and it really not do much for me.
What is existential?
Existential means, it means having to do with my existence, having to do with a person's existence, all right, and the awareness of their existence. Sometimes it has to do with the nature of their existence, but it has to do with, it's related to the person, right? So now I've kind of, and of course none of these stand by themselves, okay? These are all important in measuring a worldview. But one of the things is that, what is the world, and I don't mean to sound so self-centeredly, but just to try to put it in a real blunt way, it's like, what does this worldview do for me? See? I mean, yeah, here's reality, and And let's say, you know, whatever worldview I adopt, you know, I've discovered and other people discover wherever that this is real, but if it doesn't do much for me, yeah, so what? You know, so what? So that's true, you know. So the monitor on that screen is made out of glass. Yeah, so what? What does that do for me? Right? Because that's an important aspect, isn't it? I mean, if part of everything that we believe doesn't address those basic human issues that we have, those needs, those questions, those longings, those desires, it doesn't address those things, okay, great, you know. Matter of fact, it might be better if I believed a false worldview on the existential side of it. Because at least now maybe I got some hope where the other one didn't give me any. So existential import, how does reality relate to myself? And because I'm part of reality, I exist in reality, I'm part of it. How does it relate to me? I don't mean it in a self-centered way, because each individual deals with it. See? Does things have meaning? Things have purpose? You know? Or is it just, it is and it is? You know? When people say that it is what it is. You know? When you hear people say that kind of stuff, it is what it is. Great. It is what it is. A pen is a pen. A chalkboard is a chalkboard. What does that mean to me? Does it have any meaning in itself? Does it have just some temporary meaning for me? You know?
Once saved, always saved.
I like that. The other thing is, verification. Can we verify the things in this worldview? You see, there's one thing called, and I kind of brought these terms up before, but let's say here we have reality, okay? Everything underneath this is all that's real. And here we have a worldview. One thing it should have is what's called coherence, and I have that this here. And coherence means that inside the worldview that you have, everything makes sense. Nothing contradicts itself, okay? So, like for example, if my worldview consisted of the fact that any object that collides moves in an opposite direction, and that was it, okay? That works great. Now, does that really happen? I don't know, but if that's my worldview, and then I have another part of my worldview, which is that there are solid objects in the universe. Great, that all works, right? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing internally contradictory with that. But then we have what's called, and I've mentioned this term before, correspondence. Correspondence, in coherence, we're just talking about that inside the worldview itself, you know, it makes sense. It's sensible. There's no contradiction inside of it. Correspondence actually means that worldview also measures up with reality. Okay? This is where verification happens. So now I have this set of beliefs, I have this worldview, and the question is that, well, do my beliefs actually correspond to reality? When I think that this is true, do I see that somewhere? Or can I verify that somewhere in the actual world?